Great Scott. Great Scott. Great Scott.
Hello everyone and welcome to another fabulous episode of Great Scott. Here we are at the Mahoning Drive-In. Big screen. Well, obviously, 1 and 2 are the best of the bunch. And until you get to Superman Returns, you don't really get a quality Superman movie out of that franchise. I say that franchise because Superman Returns, of course, was meant to be a pseudo-sequel to Superman 2. When the filmmakers made Superman Returns, they said that they were going to disregard the happenstance of Superman 3 and 4, and they were just going to take it as if Superman 2 was the last Superman story we had seen. And I didn't care that they brought some alcohol. I even checked up myself to see if I should bring some wine or beers for my wife and I. And they kind of hinted that they didn't really want you getting drunk or even bringing outside food, although everybody there had it, and everybody had drinks, and except for us. We brought in food and things, but because it said, hint, hint, we sell our own stuff, but we don't want you to bring anything. So they were kind of indicating that you can bring your own stuff, but I didn't think there was going to be crazy drunk people talking about axing little girls. And I didn't expect them to actually do it, but even still, I brought the tent stake hammer and laid it next to where I was sleeping in the tent in case these guys got so drunk that they wandered into our tent and started doing crazy things. And then, the next day, we went hiking a little bit at Lehigh Gorge Park and saw some waterfalls. Little girl didn't want to leave, but we went back to see the movies, much to her chagrin, and we watched all of Superman 3, and once again, only part of Superman 4 because the other two fell asleep, and the little one then said, we should go home and watch the 4th movie at home so that they can be awake to watch it too. And so that's what we did. We haven't yet watched all of Superman 2 and 4 yet, but we will get to them. We will watch them at home. Brandon Routh was meant to be the version of Superman originally played by Christopher Reeve. By the time we got to 4, they had such a very little budget that they just kind of dropped the ball, or dropped the nuclear missile, as you will, on Superman 4, which was also written by Christopher Reeve. It held a very special place in his heart as he agreed to return to the franchise only if he could tell a story that he thought would be very important to Superman and to the world at large. And we had a good time, with the exception of the rowdy guys who, when I walked around during the day earlier, were very nice and said hi to me, and we talked a little bit. So I'm not sure which ones were the loud ones, which ones were the rowdy ones, which ones were the joking about violence ones, but it stuck into my head and it made me uncomfortable. So instead of having an awesome time tenting out for the first time with my 10-year-old and my 14-year-old, I was instead paranoid, annoyed, frustrated, uncomfortable, and unable to sleep, which are all things you would probably be in a tent anyway, because we're not meant to tent. Let's figure that out in advance and try not to do it very often. Canon Films took over the franchise after Superman 3, which was also not particularly well received. It had Richard Pryor. It was a comedy. I'm a little disappointed that we're seeing the Donner cut of Superman 2. I wasn't that happy with it when I finally did see it. I think because the Lester cut is so ingrained in my mind, and I think because the scenes and some of the dialogue was just so much better. And when you take the Donner cut, which was unfinished, and they didn't really add any money to it, and they just put screen tests and uncostumed actors and unfinished special effects together to try and put scenes that might have been in the movie. And then the second thing is, we're going to see the same ending twice, because Superman the movie has the same ending, and then they use the same ending again, because initially Richard Donner had intended Superman the movie and Superman 2 to be 2 parts of the same story. And so the ending that we see in Superman the movie was meant to only be seen in Superman 2. But seeing it today, it's going to be odd, because we're going to be looking around going, did he just do the same thing twice? And I did, though, promise my little one that we will go to some waterfalls locally here and probably tent out there, because that seemed to be her favorite part of the trip. So we'll do that again at some point. Thanks, everyone, for watching, and remember... Oh, Jesus, I dropped the camera.